Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, it is Thursday, August 13th, and it is 11:44 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I have already done a video tonight, and I've uploaded it. It is processing, and processing, and processing. Anyway, I'm doing a second video. This is going to be much shorter, and I don't know if after I'm done with this, if I'm going to do a third video or not. I still have a lot of news to cover, but we'll see after I get done with this one. It may be all I'm up for tonight. I may have to do a couple videos tomorrow to get everything covered, but I'm sure you guys won't mind that. So let's get into this. Now, I have already thanked the people that donated, and thank you very much again, all of you that support this channel. You make it possible, and I appreciate you all very, very much. And thank you everyone who wished me a happy birthday yesterday. I appreciated it, and it helped to make my day special. All right, let's get into this. What I'm going to be talking about is the Middle East peace deal that just happened. This is historic and also prophetic. So let's get into this. All right, we're going to hit on this first. And this by MonkeyWorks US Military Ops. This is huge. Pay close attention here, folks. This could be the beginning of Daniel 9:24. Very biblical. We're going to get into that in a minute. Now, this is the joint statement of the United States, the State of Israel, and the United Arab Emirates. This is, like I said, unprecedented. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this bigger and it's not working, but I'm going to do my best to be able to read these teeny tiny letters. But I know you tiny phone people are not going to be able to see this, so you can just listen to me read it. I apologize that you can't read along with me. President Donald J. Trump, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, and Deputy Supreme Commander of the United Arab Emirates spoke today and agreed to the full normalization of relations between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Like I said, historical. It's historic, no question about that. And it's very unusual, and it is biblical, and one of the signs of the end of days. So let's go on. So again, this is between Israel, the United States, Donald Trump, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, and Deputy Supreme Commander of the United Arab Emirates agreed to full normalization of relations between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Unprecedented. The historic diplomatic breakthrough will advance peace in the Middle East region and is a testament to the bold diplomacy and vision of the three leaders and the courage of the United Arab Emirates and Israel to chart a new path that will unlock the great potential in that region. All three countries face many common challenges and will mutually benefit from today's historic achievement. Delegations from Israel and the United Arab Emirates will meet in the coming weeks to sign bilateral agreements regarding investment, tourism, direct flights, security, telecommunications, technology, energy, healthcare, culture, the environment, the establishment of reciprocal embassies, and other areas of mutual benefit. Opening direct ties between two of the Middle East's most dynamic societies and advanced economies will transform the region by spurring economic growth, enhancing technological innovation, and forging closer people-to-people relations. As a result of this diplomatic breakthrough, and at the request of President Trump with the support of the United Arab Emirates, Israel will suspend declaring sovereignty over areas outlined in the president's vision for peace and focus its efforts now on expanding ties with other countries in the Arab and Muslim world. The United States, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates are confident that additional diplomatic breakthroughs with other nations are possible and will work together to achieve this goal. The United Arab Emirates and Israel will immediately expand and accelerate cooperation regarding the treatment of and the development of a vaccine for the coronavirus. Working together, these efforts will help save Muslim, Jewish, and Christian lives throughout the region. The normalization of relations and peaceful diplomacy will bring together two of America's most reliable and capable regional partners. Israel and the United Arab Emirates will join with the United States to launch a strategic agenda for the Middle East to expand diplomatic, trade, and security cooperation. Along with the United States, Israel and the United Arab Emirates share a similar outlook regarding the threats and opportunities in the region, as well as a shared commitment to promoting stability through diplomatic engagement, increasing economic integration, and closer security coordination. Today's agreement will lead to better lives for the people of the United Arab Emirates, Israel, and the region. The United States and Israel recall with gratitude the appearance of the United Arab Emirates at the White House reception held on January 28, 2020, at which President Trump presented his vision for peace and expressed their appreciation for United Arab Emirates' related supportive statements. The parties will continue their efforts in this regard to achieve a just, comprehensive, and enduring resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As set forth in the Vision for Peace, all Muslims who come in peace may visit and pray at the Al-Aqsa, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, mosque, and Jerusalem's other holy sites should remain open for peaceful worshippers of all faiths. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan expressed their deep appreciation to President Trump for his dedication to peace in the region and to the pragmatic and unique approach he has taken to achieve it. Now, like I said, unprecedented, historical, and prophetic, because it was foretold in the Bible. Yes, so this is extremely important, and let's go on because I don't want to clutter this up with a lot of nonsense. I want to get it straight to you without a lot of extraneous material so you can understand what I'm getting at here. All right, and let's come down here and look at this. This is from the Jerusalem Post, and again, it is similar, but the other one was a formal statement from the White House. This is an article from the Jerusalem Post. Israel, United Arab Emirates reach historic peace deal. We can make a wonderful future. Third ever peace treaty between Israel and an Arab state includes embassies, direct flights, agreement, suspends annexation, but Netanyahu says, I will never give up on our right to our land. Now, this is from today, and Israel and United Arab Emirates agree to full normalization of relations in a phone call with U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday, marking the first peace treaty between Israel and an Arab country in 25 years. Israel agreed to suspend its planned extension of sovereignty over parts of Judea and Samaria to facilitate relations with the United Arab Emirates and potentially other Arab and Muslim countries. The agreements will include establishing embassies and exchanging ambassadors, investments into the Israeli economy, trade, direct flights between Tel Aviv and Abu Dhabi, and an investment in Israeli efforts to develop a coronavirus vaccine, as first reported in the Jerusalem Post last month, and cooperation in matters of energy and water. An important element of the deal for the United Arab Emirates is the expectation that its citizens would be able to visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the deal full, formal peace with one of the strongest countries in the world. Together, we can bring a wonderful future. It is comparably exciting. It is an incomparably exciting moment, Netanyahu said. I have the great privilege to make the third peace treaty between Israel and an Arab country, the United Arab Emirates. Netanyahu wished Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Mohammed bin Zayed Salam, and I'm sorry I can't pronounce this, Aleikum Shalom Aleinu, peace unto you and peace unto us, Trump said in a statement posted to his Twitter account, opening direct ties between two of the Middle East's most dynamic societies and advanced economies, not COVID. Two of the Middle East's most dynamic societies and advanced economies will transform the region by spurring economic growth, enhancing technological innovation, and forging closer people-to-people relations. In subsequent remarks in the Oval Office, Trump alluded to many more countries in the region normalizing ties with Israel and some very exciting things, including, ultimately, with the Palestinians. Netanyahu said he has reason to be very optimistic that today's announcement with the United Arab Emirates will be joined by more countries in this expanding circle of peace. The agreement ushers in a new era of peace between Israel and the Arab world, he said. Sources in Washington and Jerusalem said that Trump administration is in talks with other Gulf states to reach normalization agreements with Israel. Bahrain is likely to be next, to the extent that there was a chance they would have announced normalization before the United Arab Emirates. The U.S. president also mentioned Iran, about which the United Arab Emirates and other Gulf states share concerns with Israel, saying that he will make a deal with them within 30 days if he wins the election. Trump said the Iranians are dying to make a deal, but would prefer that it be with a Democratic candidate for president, Joe Biden, because that would be like a dream for them. Trump's special advisor, Jared Kushner, clarified that the deal would not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. Netanyahu remarked that the moves toward normalization were kept tightly under wraps because Iran would have liked to sabotage them. Iran has played a major role in the closer ties between Israel and the Gulf states since the previous U.S. government and other world powers signed the nuclear deal with Tehran in 2015. The countries began cooperating on national security, and that moved to other issues after trust was built between them to the point that an American source said normalization seemed inevitable. Netanyahu touted a formula of peace for peace based on shared interests, emphasizing economic cooperation and peace that comes from a position of strength, rather than peace in exchange for concessions. However, bin Zayed presented the matter as though he had exacted concessions from Israel, emphasizing the suspension of sovereignty plans over normalization. He tweeted that an agreement was reached to stop further Israeli annexation of Palestinian territories. The United Arab Emirates and Israel also agreed to cooperation and setting a roadmap toward establishing a bilateral relationship. Excuse me. Sorry, pardon me. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi similarly called it the agreement to stop Israel's annexation of the Palestinian territories and taking steps to bring peace to the Middle East. He said in a tweet that he values the efforts in order to achieve prosperity and stability for our region. The Trump administration's vision for peace would allow Israel to apply its law to 30% of Judea and Samaria, including all settlements and the Jordan Valley. The rest of the West Bank would be designated for an eventual Palestinian state, which would receive recognition and a $50 billion aid package from the U.S. if it meets a list of preconditions, including demilitarization and stopping incitement and salaries for terrorists. Netanyahu said that he still plans to apply Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. I'm not giving up on it. It's on the table because of me. Trump put sovereignty into his peace plan because I asked for it, Netanyahu said. But in the first place, I said again and again that we would only implement sovereignty in coordination with the U.S. Without support from the U.S., in the best case, it would be worthless. And in the worst case, it would hurt ties very much. Netanyahu emphasized, I don't know where that's coming from. Netanyahu emphasized that he did not and will not remove sovereignty from the region or from the agenda. I will never give up on our right to our land. Diplomatic sources in Jerusalem and Washington pointed to the use of the word suspend, which implies that the pause is only temporary. The wording was agreed upon by all three sides. It is unclear for how long annexation would remain suspended, but it is unlikely that anything would happen before the end of this year, the Washington source said. The Trump's peace team's effort gained steam in July and led to Israel's decision to skip the original July 1st date that Netanyahu had discussed for sovereignty moves. The administration felt that the opportunity for Israel to normalize ties with the United Arab Emirates was a better choice. In the long term, this will solidify security, one American official said. Peace between Israel and the United Arab Emirates presented an opportunity for real peace, unlike the cold peace it has with Egypt and Jordan, since Israel and the United Arab Emirates were never enemies that fought a war against each other. Sovereignty moves would have stopped the momentum toward normalization with Gulf states, another source said. The American source said Israel was presented with two opportunities and chose one. They're aggressively pursuing normalization and not complicating it by doing sovereignty. Trump called the diplomatic breakthrough a labor of love for a lot of people in the room, speaking to how it is also achievement for the special advisor to the president, Jared Kushner, who heads the Middle East peace team, and special representative for international negotiations, Avi Berkowitz, who worked behind the scenes in recent months to promote normalization between Israel and the Arab world, and the U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman. Friedman said the normalization of relations between Israel and the United Arab Emirates will make Israel stronger and safer and will likely lead to additional exciting opportunities and incremental prosperity for Israel, its neighbors, and the entire region. A senior Likud source remarked that the Israeli and international left always said we can't bring peace with Arab states without peace with the Palestinians, that there is no other way than withdrawing to 67 lines, evacuating settlements, dividing Jerusalem, and establishing a Palestinian state. For the first time in history, Prime Minister Netanyahu broke the paradigm of land for peace and brought peace for peace. Foreign Minister Gabi Ashkenazi praised the agreement, saying the good news of normalization with the United Arab Emirates is important and an opening to more agreements. Ashkenazi also praised avoiding the one-sided annexation plan and called for the complete Trump peace plan to be implemented. Yamina leader Naftali Bennett praised the normalization, saying relations between the countries are no longer held hostage by Palestinian recalcitrants, but slammed Netanyahu for suspending sovereignty plans. It's unfortunate that Netanyahu gave up a once-in-a-century chance to apply sovereignty to the Jordan Valley. Malaya Adumin, Bet El, and the rest of Israeli settlements, he said. It is tragic that Netanyahu did not seize the moment and didn't have the courage to apply sovereignty to the centimeter of the land of Israel, but sovereignty over the parts of our homeland will come from somewhere else. Joint List MK Matens Shakeda accused the United Arab Emirates of a betrayal, no less than a knife in the back of the Palestinian people and the Arab nations. That's my cat. Nothing will change, and everyone who thinks the Palestinians will disappear are mistaken. Democratic candidate for president Joe Biden said the United Arab Emirates' offer to publicly recognize the state of Israel is welcome, brave, and badly needed act of statesmanship. Annexation would be a bloody blow to the course of peace, which is why I oppose it now and would oppose it as president. All right, so let's keep that in mind, and let's go back and let's look at this. Now, this is the White House, and President Donald Trump was able to get Israel to agree to a two-state solution with the Palestinian people, and for the first time in history, agree to a map that outlined the territory. Now, this from Jared Kushner, and I'm going to, hang on here, make it big for you tiny phone people. There we go.
Get Israel to agree to have a two-state solution with the Palestinians, and for the first time in history to agree to a map that outlined the territory that they would be willing to work with in order to see that happen. That showed a lot of people in the region that Israel was serious about really moving forward and making peace, and also showed them that President Trump's leadership and diplomacy could make things happen that hadn't happened previously. What happened is, as Israel was discussing with us, providing, taking Israeli law and sovereignty to areas of the West Bank and applying it, we were having these discussions, and over the last 6 weeks, the discussions between UAE and Israel started accelerating around this being a potential different path. President Trump was able to get Israel to agree to have a two-state solution with the Palestinians, and for the first time in history, to agree to a map that outlined the territory that they would be willing to work with.
Okay, sorry, it's starting over again. Now, that is from the White House, and let's go back here, and this is David M. Friedman, U.S. Ambassador to Israel, and he posted this on Twitter. POTUS vision for peace in the Middle East continues to become a reality, with Israel and the United Arab Emirates making history today. This agreement will make Israel and the United Arab Emirates stronger, safer, and more prosperous. Truly the art of the deal by POTUS. And we have this picture here. Now, having read all that and prefaced it with saying this is historical, it is unprecedented, and it is biblical and prophetic, let's look at the biblical and prophetic aspect of this. And especially those of you who are believers will understand the significance of this. So let's go here, and I like, this is harvest.org, and I liked this explanation mainly because it agrees with my studies. And so, profile of the Antichrist. And please hear me, I am not stating that Trump is the Antichrist. Could he be? Yes, it's a possibility, but too soon. Too soon. Now, I will tell you that Jared Kushner scares me. He scares me for these very reasons. But let's not discuss whether Trump is or isn't. We don't know yet. It's too, you can't. I mean, we don't know. We do know that the Antichrist will bring peace in the Middle East. That we do know. Some have confused the rider of the white horse in verse 2 with Jesus, but the rider is actually the Antichrist. For following the appearing of the rider is not a kingdom of righteousness, but a time of wickedness and sorrow. Masquerading as the true Messiah, he wears a crown, while Jesus wears many crowns. Revelation 19:12. In the Greek translation, the crown worn by the rider of the white horse refers to the crown of victory worn by a conqueror. The crowns Jesus wears in Revelation 19 refer to the crowns of royalty. Now, that's often mixed up, because the rider of the white horse is not Jesus, it is the Antichrist. And we've heard about the horsemen of the apocalypse. Well, that's this. A conqueror bent on conquest, when a victor triumphantly enters a new conquered kingdom, he would invariably ride a white horse. The Antichrist will deceitfully establish himself and then show his true colors. The coming world leader, the Antichrist, will come at an economically difficult time. There will be war in different parts of the world, and he, through brilliant political moves along with an incredible charisma, will be able to do what no one else has ever done: bring economic stability to the world's monetary system and bring world peace. By establishing this peace, he will deceive many. He will even convince the Jewish nation and the Arab nations. Listen. He will even convince the Jewish nation and the Arab nations to sign a peace treaty, paving the way for the long-awaited Third Temple. His accomplishments will be so spectacular, so far-reaching, and unprecedented that many will hail him as the Messiah. But we are warned in Scripture that he is a deceiver. And the man of sin, the Antichrist, will be history's vilest embodiment of sin and rebellion. Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs, and that man of lawlessness, sin, is revealed. And who is this man of sin? It is the Antichrist, the man doomed to destruction in 2 Thessalonians 2:3, the wicked one. And then the lawless one will be revealed, the Antichrist, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy by the brightness of his coming. 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 8. Lawless can be translated wicked. The Antichrist totally opposes every law of God. Halfway into his power play, he will show his true colors, rebuilding the temple and committing the abomination of desolation. Daniel 12:11 and Matthew 24:15. He will show himself to be a bloodthirsty dictator who will make Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Saddam Hussein look like lightweights in comparison. Dictators rarely take over nations by brute force. Political or economic problems almost always pave the way for tyranny. This has already been proven true in history. Rome set the precedent, seeking out nations who were in political and economic turmoil. They came with seeming benevolence only to turn to tyrannical suppression and demand worship of Caesar. Adolf Hitler did the same. In 1930, Germany was in desperate financial straits. Inflation was so bad that literally thousands of people were starving. Communists stirred up riots in the street, and there was general chaos. Then Adolf Hitler came on the scene, a voice of authority in the midst of chaos. He spoke of a people of destiny and promised glories to come, but it was not meant to be. Hitler was a pale version of the Antichrist who will work through a revived Roman Empire. He, like the Romans and Hitler, will bring political, military, and economic answers, and he will persecute Jews and Christians. Satan's unholy trinity. The Antichrist will not act alone. There will be a false prophet working with him. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet, who worked signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. Those who were cast alive into the lake of fire. Let me start that again. The Antichrist will not act alone. There will be a false prophet working with him. Then the beast, the Antichrist, was captured, and with him the false prophet. So the Antichrist and the false prophet will be captured, and the false prophet worked signs in his presence. So the false prophet works signs in the presence of the Antichrist, and he deceives those who receive the mark of the beast, the mark of the Antichrist, and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. Revelation 19:20. Here we see Satan's unholy trinity. Satan imitating God and, for a short time, having the worship of people worldwide. The Antichrist masquerading as the Son, and the false prophet impersonating the Holy Spirit. The work of the Antichrist. The Antichrist will bring about a new religious system that will accommodate everyone. We are currently in the midst of a cult explosion, whether it be Dianetics, EST, goddess worship, reincarnation, astrology, holistic healing, or any of the 100 other consciousness-raising techniques. The modern age is on a search for some mystical divine unity. The time is ripe for a world religion. The Antichrist will harness the world's economic system. He required everyone, great and small, rich and poor, slave and free, to be given a mark on the right hand or on the forehead, and no one could buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing his name. Wisdom is needed to understand this. Let the one who has understanding solve the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Revelation 13:16 to 18. Modern technology in the last days, before computers were such a vital part of our life, it was hard to imagine how the prophecy could be enforced. In our generation, we have seen the developments of all parts of the electronic system necessary for one person to wield total economic control: credit cards, debit cards, smart cards, ATM, etc. Now we have supercomputers that are so fast they can perform thousands of operations on each person's files in the world every second. Satellites can link the whole world together instantly, receiving unbelievable amounts of data simultaneously. Fiber optics that service our homes and computers are able to carry thousands of conversations, video, images, and data transfers at the same time. Our cell phones can do this wirelessly. The internet links large and small businesses around the globe together instantly. In addition, we all have several numbers assigned to us: Social Security, driver's license, etc., that enable easy access to our records. Modern technology has made it possible for the Antichrist to do what the Bible predicts: to literally control the right of individuals to buy and sell. For example, we can buy most of what we need by use of our credit or debit cards. Cards, however, can be lost. The problem could be solved by inserting tiny electronic transponders, chip implants somewhere in our body. This has already been done with livestock and household pets. Thus, the stage is set for the mark of the beast. So this is very interesting, and I bring this up only because of this peace deal. It is a key part of end time prophecy, and it has been fulfilled. So it's interesting. Now, again, I think we need to be very careful in labeling somebody at this point the Antichrist, because we know that halfway through his power, this Antichrist will change. He will persecute Jews and Christians, and he will rebuild the temple, and he will rebuild the temple in Israel, the third temple, and he will actually go to that temple and declare himself to be the long-awaited Messiah. In essence, declaring himself to be God and demanding to be worshipped. Now, I will state, and don't get me wrong, I like Trump. What's not to like? He's done very, very positive things for the country. But it does concern me a bit that there are rabbis in Israel that believe him to be the Messiah. It bothers me that there's a gold coin with his image on it in Israel. Now, that in and of itself proves nothing. But I don't know. Will he be the one to rebuild the third temple? If he is, we need to be very, very, very cautious, because he will, at that point, reveal himself to be the Antichrist. So, again, not saying he is. I'm a long way from saying that. I'm just adding up what I see little by little, and building on it and tucking it away in the back of my head. But in terms of what the Bible says, that is the end all and be all to me personally. I believe it. I have seen miracles in my life. I mean, with my own eyes, I have seen miracles, and I believe with every fiber of my being that Jesus is Lord. And I believe the prophecies that the Bible has stated, biblical prophecies, have always fulfilled themselves. And you can look in past parts of the Bible that were written previous. They will state a prophecy. Well, even look at all the prophecies regarding the coming of Jesus. It was fulfilled to the very, very letter. And I can't remember how many prophecies there were. It was a lot. I did a study on that one time, and it was fascinating. Anyway, that is all I'm going to state there. I know I'm going to get a lot of hatred, but I am just stating what I did is I read through what just happened. I told you that it is biblical, and I read to you what the criteria is for the Antichrist so that you can be prepared. If you are a believer, you can take this and you can use it, tuck it into the back of your head, and keep it in your heart as well. So that is it for tonight. Now, I do have more news, but I think I'm going to do that tomorrow because this has been, it's already 12:20, and it would probably be 1 o'clock or so by the time I finished a third video, and by the time it got uploaded, it would be very much later. So, all right. That's it, and thank you guys so much. I appreciate you listening to me, whether or not you agree with me. And you know what? That's okay if you don't agree with me. We can agree to disagree on most things and still get along, but this is definitely what I believe, and I'm just grateful that you listened this long. I really am. So thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Good night.